Tonight, Monday Night Raw emanates once again from inside the WWE Thunderdome at the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida. Of course, maybe most importantly is that tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw is the last episode of Raw before we have the draft, which begins Friday night on SmackDown and then continues next week on Monday Night Raw. So I have reservations, shall we say, because of that, mostly because historically, in a lot of these episodes of Raw or SmackDown or anything for that matter prior to WWE drafts, WWE just tends to get them out of the way. They tend not really to put much focus and much energy into these kind of shows because realistically to them, and I do sympathize with them slightly, it's not important in the grand scheme of things. There's a lot of moving parts. Their main focus right now is on who's going to go where, who's going to move from Raw to SmackDown, who's going to go from SmackDown to Raw, are we going to get anyone from NXT going to Raw or SmackDown? So kind of Raw at this point is slightly an afterthought, especially tonight's episode, and that's no different to what it's been like in recent weeks in general when it comes to Monday Night Raw. How many times in the last few weeks when it comes to Raw have we heard there have been last minute rewrites, there have been changes, the talent are just finding out what they're doing an hour before the show, the second and third hours being rewritten in the first hour of the show. All of this stuff is a constant when it comes to Monday Night Raw in recent weeks, and I think tonight will be no different. I really do. Purely because, as I mentioned, it's not the main focus. I think the main focus is the draft, which starts on Friday, so they're already going to be thinking of that. But specifically what we're going to talk about in this video when it comes to Monday Night Raw is the KO show tonight, of course, hosted by Monday Night Raw superstar. But the special guest this week is going to be a superstar from Friday Night SmackDown, that being Bray Wyatt. Now, this, of course, comes after Kevin Owens hosted the Kevin Owens show this past Friday night on SmackDown with Alexa Bliss. Now, before I get into what seems to be like my daily rant when it comes to the brand extension in WWE, what I will say is let's focus on that segment on Friday Night SmackDown, that KO show segment with Kevin Owens and Alexa Bliss. Take out of all of the stuff about the brand split and all of that sort of stuff. We'll touch on that in a second. I thought that KO show with Kevin Owens and Alexa Bliss on SmackDown, I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Alexa Bliss, for me, is on such a roll right now, and there's always discussion when it comes to WWE about who's the next big breakout star when it comes to Hollywood or it comes to TV. Who's going to be that superstar that goes mainstream, right? You've seen it with The Rock, you've seen it with Batista. John Cena, of course, has done it as well. Obviously, they're big names. We've seen people been not so successful doing it. Stone Cold Steve Austin was the hottest thing going, and he did a couple of movies and a couple of TV shows. I don't think his heart was really in it, so he didn't do it. But you've also seen people try and cross over, and maybe it hasn't worked out for them. I think of names like Chyna. Chyna tried to do it when she left WWE. It didn't work out for her for a variety of reasons, which we won't go into. Chris Jericho is also another one that's tried to jump across into the mainstream. He tried to do TV shows and he's done the odd cameo in movies. I think personally he would like to do more, but it hasn't really worked out for him there, and I think that's for the best. I mean, I love me some Chris Jericho in AEW right now. So there's always a question. There's always a question about who's going to be that next person to cross over, and there'd been a lot of discussion before that maybe it was going to be Charlotte Flair. There'd been discussions that, or reports, shall we say, that Charlotte Flair had some offers for sitcoms, TV shows from major networks. I don't know how legitimate that is, but there were some quite highly rated journalists that were saying that, so there might be some truth to it. Ric Flair, I think, even came out and said that Charlotte Flair had been getting offers outside of pro wrestling. But my point being is that I think when you come down to who could be the person to really cross over next, I think it could be Alexa Bliss. And the reason why I say that is because look at her performances recently on Friday Night SmackDown. Forget about the pro wrestling side of things. Look at it from a pure acting point of view, getting into your character, going deep in your character, believing what you're seeing on television, the facial reactions, the way she's delivering her words, the way she's delivering her lines. I know that annoys some people from pro wrestling historians, but Alexa Bliss in recent weeks on SmackDown, those performances have been incredible. Incredible. And we've seen this slow transition of the Fiend really taking hold of Alexa Bliss. And finally, this past week on SmackDown in the KO show, Alexa Bliss said that the Fiend had changed her. Kevin Owens said that she had been brainwashed by Bray Wyatt and the Fiend, and she said that was correct. her brain had been washed, it had been cleaned, and now she was pure. And Kevin Owens at the end of it, which I thought was fantastic, at the end he goes, he's here, isn't he? And she goes, he's always here, he's everywhere. And then says, let him in. The lights go out, the lights come back on, the Fiend's there, and the Fiend attacks Kevin Owens. And I would think I was along the same lines as many people, was of the mindset, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. I want to see Kevin Owens versus the Fiend. That's a feud we haven't seen before. It's an interesting feud. You can look at it from a lot of different perspectives, of course, that every person the Fiend touch, he changes, whether it's Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Daniel Bryan, John Cena. They've all disappeared, or they've all changed, they've become heels, whatever, all of that sort of stuff. That's what has happened when it comes to the Fiend. So maybe the Fiend feuding with Kevin Owens isn't a bad thing at all, because maybe Kevin Owens will turn heel. Maybe it will cause Kevin Owens to disappear and go back to NXT. That would be a great way of writing Kevin Owens off of WWE television and moving back over to NXT television, because Lord knows Kevin Owens probably needs it. He would be much more valuable than he appears to be right now on Monday Night Raw. He hasn't really been doing much. To be honest, he's been doing the KO shows, but since that feud with Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, which kind of felt a little bit last minute, I'll be totally honest, it feels like, to be honest, Kevin Owens hasn't really done anything of pure substance that he can really sink his teeth into since he had the feud with Shane McMahon, and that was a year ago. That was on SmackDown. He got drafted to Raw, and what has really happened? Not a lot. He feuded with Seth Rollins for ages, it felt like, and those matches were fine, and the feud was fine. It felt never-ending at times, and I've enjoyed the Kevin Owens babyface turn. I like Kevin Owens as a babyface, but I think he's more valuable than that. And if he does get written off of WWE television by The Fiend and then goes to NXT, I'd be all for that. I'd be all for that. We saw the debut of the Capitol Wrestling Center last night, NXT TakeOver 31. Can you imagine Kevin Owens in there? Stripped back, going to the more gritty prize fighter Kevin Owens, his NXT roots. I think that's really interesting, and maybe that's where we're going with that. As far as Bray Wyatt, it's fascinating. It's fascinating because it's, of course, this is kind of playing up that it's already been announced that Friday night on SmackDown, in addition to the draft, we've got a couple of confirmed matches, one of them being Kevin Owens versus The Fiend. Now, this is a big deal because this is the first match that Bray Wyatt, or The Fiend for that matter, has had on WWE television since 2018. Yes, I did not misspeak there. You've heard me correctly. Bray Wyatt / The Fiend, whatever, or Bray Wyatt in any form, has not had a match on WWE television since 2018. That is protection of a character on a whole new level that we just don't see nowadays. And part of me is a little bit sad that run is coming to the end, because I like the idea of you only see The Fiend on pay-per-view, but it looks like The Fiend is becoming a more prominent character. He's not just appearing occasionally, he's kind of appearing more and more often now on WWE television, which I don't necessarily have a problem with. I know some people have said, well, this means he's overexposed, but that's just the case for all WWE superstars. If you're a full-time WWE superstar, you're overexposed. That's just how it is. Support for WrestleNews 365 is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Now, Manscaped, for all of my UK fans out there, Manscaped just launched in the UK. Over here in the United Kingdom, we have gone for years and years and years without using the right tools for the job. But now you can be one of the first men in England to experience their life-changing product. But it's not just limited to all of the great fans over here in the UK. This offer goes worldwide, so all of my friends over in America and around the world that are listening to this offer still does apply for you. You can still use our code. But I've got to tell you a quick story first. Now, there have been so many times, right? I'm a guy. You gotta groom down there, fellas, right? That's the most important thing. You gotta keep yourself trimmed, you gotta keep yourself proper, and a lot of the time I've been guilty of this, of using the wrong tools for the job. I've had incidences, I'm not afraid to say it, where things have been nicked, snagged, or in fact cut down there because I wasn't being careful enough and using the right equipment. Now that just shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. You don't want to be worrying about cutting yourself down there. Do you know how painful that is? I can tell you, it hurts quite a lot, and I wish and hope to God it never happens to me again, and it won't happen to me ever again because I'm using Manscaped products. That's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team has perfected the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created. Big statement, but it's absolutely true. They have just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0 in the UK. It's also available around the world as well. Their third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. So those cuts and snags that I was telling you about before are a thing of the past. And let me tell you, when I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. The battery will last up to 90 minutes, so you can get a longer, perfect shave. And not only that, you don't want to be cutting yourself and trimming yourself all over the bathroom, getting hair all over the place. That's just disgusting. The lawnmower has a waterproof technology that allows you to groom in the shower, so no more mess. And one of the coolest features, one of my favourite features about the lawnmower, is the LED light which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming experience. So you can shave longer, you can shave more precisely, and you can shave in the shower. What more did I need to tell you? They've also upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology, and let's not forget about the charging stand. You can show off your mower loud and proud because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB. So, if you are listening to me speak right now, I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. Let's get that bush to tush clean, and you can get 20% off and free shipping. Yeah, you heard me right there. 20% off and free shipping. All you have to do is use the code 365wrestle at manscaped.com. Make your testes their besties. That's 20% off and free shipping. Not only are you getting 20% off, you're getting free shipping as well with the code 365wrestle at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code 365wrestle. Your balls will thank you. But I think it's interesting if we do see Bray Wyatt on the KO show tonight, because the way they're advertising this is that it's going to be the Firefly Funhouse Mr. Rogers version of Bray Wyatt. It's not going to be the Fiend or anything like that. And historically, we have seen this on a couple of occasions. This isn't the case, but normally Bray Wyatt, the Firefly Funhouse Mr. Rogers version of Bray Wyatt, he appears only in the Firefly Funhouse. Now, I know that's not a hard and fast rule, because we have seen him obviously work matches against the likes of Braun Strowman and The Miz. We have seen him appear in the ring on a couple of occasions, whether it was with John Cena or Braun Strowman. So it's not out of the complete realm of possibility that Bray Wyatt, Firefly Funhouse, Mr. Rogers, wearing his cardigan, will be appearing inside the ring with Kevin Owens tonight. However, I do think it's unlikely. I feel like it's unlikely. I feel that KO will do his show, the KO show, but I think it's more likely we see Bray Wyatt inside the Firefly Funhouse on the big screen. I'd love to be proven wrong. Maybe it will be the case, or maybe we get some puppets appear at ringside. Who knows? But it's certainly an interesting segment. It's one I'm looking forward to. Don't get me wrong. I'm absolutely looking forward to this segment because it's different. We haven't seen a Kevin Owens and Bray Wyatt feud before. We really haven't, and certainly not this version of Bray Wyatt and Kevin Owens, so that's a lot of fun, and it really does interest me. I think this is a consequence also of the Jey Uso Roman Reigns feud continuing, because by all accounts and the way that things were set up previously, it looked like we were going to have Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt going forward, at least into the end of the year. Obviously, the Roman Reigns Jey Uso feud at Clash of Champions initially, I think, was just to cement the Roman Reigns heel turn. What they didn't expect is for it to get so over and to be so great. The Roman Reigns Jey Uso feud at the moment arguably is the best thing on WWE TV right now. I would state that the Alexa Bliss and the Fiend relationship is right up there with it, because it's a really compelling storyline, and they've been doing so great in the story that they've been telling there. So I think, given that Reigns and Uso is continuing, at least until Hell in a Cell, you need to have Bray Wyatt or the Fiend doing something in the interim. Of course, we saw the Wobbly Walrus puppet debut on the Firefly Funhouse, and that was an indication that the next feud was going to be Bray Wyatt versus Roman Reigns, but I feel like those plans have been halted slightly. So in the interim, Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, needs a feud, and that's going to be Kevin Owens. Again, I don't have a problem with that. I love the pairing. And I felt that the Alexa Bliss and the Fiend sort of making their alliance official on SmackDown, I thought was fantastic. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I've compared it to the Harley Quinn and the Joker relationship of the WWE. That's what it feels like. Some crazy masked clown with someone like Alexa Bliss who has dressed up and cosplayed as Harley Quinn before. It kind of just fits perfectly, doesn't it? And it'll be very, very popular. It's a unique and it's a different dynamic. It's a different pairing. I think it's great. I think it's money. Now, I will finish up this preview by going on my what feels to be like daily rant when it comes to the brand extension in WWE. Of course, some people will be saying, well, how come Kevin Owens can feud with Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss? Kevin Owens is on Raw, The Fiend and Alexa Bliss are on SmackDown. I don't have an answer for you. I don't have an answer for you because the rules don't make any sense when it comes to the brand split and the brand extension in WWE. And the frustrating thing about that is WWE makes the rules themselves, so why can't they follow their own rules? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. They try and explain it when they say, oh, the brand-to-brand invitational, which at first was quarterly, now it feels like every day, or I don't know. Then they have the wild card rule. Last year, of course, they had the draft of Raw and SmackDown, even though there were already exclusive rosters of Raw and SmackDown. This whole brand extension when it comes to WWE, look, I am a fan of it, and I do think the concept of a brand extension can work. The issue is when it comes to the brand extension in WWE is you have to be committed. You have to be committed and you can't go back on your word. And that's where WWE fails, unfortunately. They draft it into separate rosters and then they're not happy that the star power isn't what it was if you had both rosters combined. But of course it isn't. The challenge there is to make new stars. The issue being is that WWE has a real issue when it comes to creating new stars. WWE has a real issue in building up new stars on both shows, and WWE has a real problem in keeping both brands separate. They just can't do it. They just can't help themselves. They'll do it for a few weeks, a few months, and then a rating goes down or some competition comes up. If it's Raw, it's Monday Night Football. If it's SmackDown, something happens on a Friday, and then next thing you know, or the ratings go down and Fox aren't happy, and they need to keep Fox happy. That's $1 billion contract. Next thing you know, the brand-to-brand invitational, all this starts happening. It's just how it works. It's the same pattern. It's the same cycle when it comes to the brand split. The best attempt they ever had at this was the original brand split in 2002. They did keep them separate for a while, and legitimately separate. There was barely any crossover. The only crossover you would get would be at the Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, WrestleMania, or Survivor Series, which I'm fine with. That's the way I think it should work. But unfortunately, WWE, like I said, just can't help themselves. And I think when we're only a couple of weeks out from the draft, which is when this Kevin Owens, Alexa Bliss KO show first happened, I think WWE just looks at it and says, you know what, we're only a couple of weeks away from the draft. It doesn't matter. We'll rewrite this wrong in a couple of weeks anyway. The lines between Raw and SmackDown have been blurred because of the draft. We can come up with some story saying the brand-to-brand invitational. If they've got that in their back pocket, they'll always use it whenever they feel like it. So while I don't have a problem in the slightest of a Kevin Owens versus Bray Wyatt feud, if anything, I really like it. I think there's a lot you can do there and a lot of really interesting stuff you can do there. Specifically is in terms of the relationship between The Fiend and Alexa Bliss and potentially changing Kevin Owens, getting him moved back to NXT or something like that. I think there's a lot there they can do. The thing that just frustrates me is at the back of my mind, what I keep thinking to myself is, where is the brand split? Where is the brand split? You're coming up towards a draft, and prior to that, you've got a guy from Raw feuding with a guy from SmackDown. You're promoting a brand extension that doesn't exist at the moment. It doesn't, to me, that just doesn't compute in the slightest. But I am looking forward to the match on SmackDown. I think that'll be very interesting. It certainly has stacked SmackDown, no doubt. Of course, they've got the draft, and then they've got The Fiend making his first WWE televised match. In addition to that, you've got Sasha Banks maybe going up against Bayley as well. So they're stacking that show. They want to do a big rating, and I think they will. I don't think they're going to do the same rating that they did for the draft last year. Certainly ain't going to be close to that 4 million mark when they debuted on Fox. As far as this segment goes tonight on Raw, I think it'll be great. I'm sure it'll be great. I don't think it's going to affect the ratings too much. To me, at the moment, the best rating that Raw can do is just over 2 million, and that's on a good week. Gone are the days of 2.5 million, certainly gone are the days of being over 3 or 4 million. That just isn't going to happen on Monday Night Raw now, especially as long as they're 3 hours long. So we'll have to wait and see. But in terms of this segment tonight, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm always a fan of Bray Wyatt's promos. Kevin Owens does great work, and I do enjoy his KO show segment. So it'll be really interesting, and it's certainly one of the segments I'm looking forward to the most tonight on Monday Night Raw. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on the KO show tonight with Bray Wyatt as Kevin Owens' special guest? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys and chatting pro wrestling with you on this channel. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button as well. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen any of our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.